Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Halal Times YouTube channel. Today, I got a question for all of you. What's your life goal as a Muslim? Ideally, you want to perform all your financial activities in a Sharia-compliant way. But which companies offer Sharia-compliant investment solutions? Well, we found one for you today. The name of the company is SP Funds Management. And of course, as you might already guessed, SP stands for Shariah Portfolio. They offer Sharia-compliant investment solutions around the world. Today, we got a chance to speak with the president and CEO of the company. He's a frequent speaker and contributor to various news media outlets around the globe on the topic of Sharia-compliant investment management. In 2019, he was selected as one of the most influential Muslims in the world by Islamica 500. And of course, he is none other than Mr. Naushad Virji. Brother Naushad, Assalamu alaikum and welcome to our channel. Today, we're really excited to have you here.
Assalamu alaikum. Very happy to be here. Thank you.
Could you please let us know a bit about yourself and how you got started with the Islamic finance industry in the beginning?
So my name is Naushad Virji. I'm the founder and chairman of the board of the Shariah Portfolio group of companies. We have a U.S. Managed account business where we manage client portfolios for people interested in a Sharia-compliant approach throughout the U.S. And we've been doing that for 20 years now. I personally started with a hedge fund many years before that, and I found a lot of success in buying Sharia-compliant stocks. You know, a lot of people had the perception that if you decide to buy Sharia-compliant investments, that you're going to lose return. And I was focused on proving that you could actually do better, or at least the same. And I was able to prove that with my hedge fund. So then we started Shariah Portfolio, and alhamdulillah, it's grown quite a bit. And we were then able to launch our Canadian company, which we began back in 2017. And then in 2020, due to overwhelming demand from overseas, we launched our global business, SP Global Wealth. The best way to see everything that we do, we have a company profile website called sp-wealth.com, and you can showcase, you know, all our companies are showcased there. We launched our SP Funds line of ETFs back in 2019 as well, because as a financial advisor, one of the best tools to help clients with their portfolio management is by using ETFs. They're very low cost funds that basically are passive investments that follow a particular index. So our first challenge was that, you know, the S&P didn't really do much in this way of Sharia compliant indexes. So we spoke with them, we told them what we wanted to do, and they were actually pretty impressed with our prospects. And so they decided that they'll partner with us. So they created the indexes that we needed. So there's now a Sharia compliant industry exclusions index. The reason why it's called industry exclusions is that we exclude haram industries from the index. So we're taking the S&P 500 and taking out the stocks that are not following Sharia principles and guidelines. So that leaves us with about 200 stocks. So we were able to take the S&P 500 and keep the stocks that are Sharia compliant and create our own ETF. We have 3 different ETFs, one for stocks, one for real estate, and one for sukuk. So that's all part of the SP Funds family. So that's kind of been our journey over the last 20 years. We started with basic wealth management in the US, expanded that to Canada and globally, and then we launched our own line of ETFs. And currently we're the largest provider of Sharia compliant ETFs in North America.
How do you determine which stocks are Sharia compliant and which ones are not?
Basically, we follow IOFI guidelines. IOFI is the gold standard of Sharia compliant investing. They're a group made up of about 15 or 20 well-respected scholars from all over the world. So it's a pretty prestigious Shura council. So they make the rules and we're just following the rules and guidelines that they have put into place. So Some of those guidelines are that the investments that we make have to be in companies that are in halal industries. So we exclude things like alcohol, pornography, gambling, etc. So any haram industries, pork products, these are all excluded from the universe of stocks that we can use. The second thing that we look at is debt. We can't invest in companies that have a lot of debt. And the reason why, some people ask, well, why is a small amount of debt allowed? The reason is that not all debt is haram because it's not all incurring interest. A lot of companies will buy products using net 30 terms. Net 30 means you have 30 days to repay with zero interest. So a lot of companies that are dealing in inventory, for example, selling products and services, they will buy from their vendors on net 30 or even net 60 terms. And that is not a riba-based transaction. There's no interest on that. They're just given 30 days or 60 days to pay for those products. So that type of debt is allowed because there's no riba. Debt that incurs interest is problematic. And so that's what we try to avoid. So that little bit of debt where it's net 30 days or net 60 days, or there's very little interest or no interest actually, then we don't have a problem with that. Our problem is when somebody borrows a lot of money and it's an interest-based transaction and they're incurring a lot of riba over time, then that's what we try to avoid. So the screening tries to filter out any long-term debt, or substantial long-term debt. The way we define that debt is we look at the value of the company itself, and the debt that they have to have has to be less than 30% of their value. So this is a pretty well-known metric. A lot of firms are following this, not just us, but I do like to explain why that's important. The other thing that we look at is the accounts receivable of a company. That has to be less than their total assets. And the reason for that is that a lot of companies, when they sell their products, they're financing them. Like, for example, if you buy a car, there's nothing haram about buying a car. But if you've now taken a loan and you're paying interest, now you've taken a halal transaction and made it haram by introducing riba. So there are a lot of companies that are selling products by financing sales. So that's another thing we look for. So we don't want the receivable to be substantial because that implies that they're very likely financing the sales of their products. And then the last bit of information that we look at is that if a company is doing anything haram, what percent of their income is coming from that? Now, the reason why we have to look at it this way is because there are a lot of companies like airlines. Airlines are moving people from point A to point B. There's nothing haram about that transaction. However, airlines might serve alcohol on the flight. So that becomes problematic for us because we don't want to participate in alcohol sales. So we first of all make sure that if there is something haram going on, like alcohol sales on an airline, we want to make sure that that's less than 5%. And then whatever amount of haram income there is, we perform a purification. So whatever income is coming from that source, we'll give a purification number so that all of our clients can make a donation to eliminate that haram income from their portfolios. So those are the primary metrics that we follow, and that hopefully answers your question about what makes this halal or how do we make it Sharia compliant.
Are all of your customers located in the US?
We actually have clients in 12 different countries. So we have a lot of clients in Canada. We have clients in places like UK, Germany. We have clients in India and Pakistan. We have clients in UAE, Malaysia, Qatar, Singapore. So a total of about 12 different countries and growing. We have inquiries daily from different countries. In fact, we just recently launched an app because we were having so many people interested worldwide that we launched an app to make the process a lot easier. So if you go to your app store on iOS or Android, there's an app for SP Global Wealth, which will allow people to open clients very easily right online. And it's just to make the whole process much simpler.
Would institutional investors use your services as well?
Oh, absolutely. We actually work with a lot of banks all over the world, in so many different countries. So they use our products, and some of them create their own products using our ETFs. So, for example, there's a big mutual fund company here in the US that's pretty well known around the world. They've incorporated our ETFs into one of their funds. So it's a multi-asset fund. And so our ETFs are in that fund. And so when people are buying their fund, they're indirectly getting ours. There's a big financial institution in Canada doing the same thing. We have financial institutions in the UAE and in Malaysia that are doing the same thing. And we have quite a few institutional partners in the form of asset managers as well, who use our ETFs for their clients. So for us, our goal is to introduce Sharia compliant investing to as many Muslims as possible. And this allows the institutions that are out there to also be able to do the same by having these ETFs in place. So it's basically furthering the demand for Sharia compliant solutions worldwide, which is ultimately our goal. We want people to be able to benefit from this. There are 1.8 billion Muslims all over the world, and the vast majority of them have not had these kind of products and services because they've largely been ignored by financial services. So it's our mission to make sure that they are aware of these solutions. And whether they go to somebody else or come through us, the point is for them to at least know that these solutions exist and that they can benefit themselves by following a Sharia compliant path.
A lot of mainstream customers tend to think that Islamic finance is for Muslims only. What's your take on this issue?
It's definitely not. We actually have non-Muslim clients as well. And there's two really good reasons for that. One is that the parameters for Sharia compliance that I explained earlier, they actually happen to mean that when you're investing in a company, you're investing in well-capitalized companies. So companies that don't have a lot of debt. So, companies that are profitable. And this is actually a pretty good metric. So, so if you want to avoid leverage, Sharia compliance is the best way to do that. I don't know of a better way. If you look back at 2008, when we were having the global financial crisis, what's interesting is that is when Sharia compliant investing really took off, because by avoiding debt, Sharia compliant investors were able to have far better returns than the markets. And that's when a lot of non-Muslims got involved. They invested because they liked making money. They liked not, having as much risk, interest rate risks. And so it was a very good solution for everybody, not just Muslims. And that's why even on our websites, we always talk about, the Muslim community is definitely, one that would be interested in Sharia compliant solutions, but then you also have people who want to avoid leverage. So this is by far the best solution out there, in my opinion, that I know of. There was an article recently about REITs, because REITs have been doing really well over the last year. We do have a Sharia compliant REIT as well. So in the article, they were naming some of the best REITs for this market environment where you have interest rates expected to go up and an asset class that's doing really well, and with potential inflation up ahead, where are the best places to invest? And they named our REIT as one really good place to invest. Now, this has nothing to do with the Muslim community. This was a author who was writing about conventional REITs, and he named ours just because it's very unique. It's a way to avoid interest rate risks and still be in real estate. So Sharia compliant solutions are for everybody, not just the Muslim community.
Now, let's imagine I'm one of your potential customers. I don't know anything about ETFs. Could you please let me know what ETFs are and why should I care about them as an investor?
ETFs are basically a basket of stocks. That's the easiest way to think of them. So, when you go out and you're buying a stock, you're becoming an owner of a business. If you buy one share of Apple, you are now a part owner of Apple or whatever the company is in question. So the question becomes, well, how do I know which companies to buy stock in? Now, a lot of people are very busy. They don't have time. They don't want to sit there and analyze all of these different companies. So if you want to do this on your own and you don't want to deal with individual stocks, one of the best ways to invest is to buy these ETFs, because ETFs are just a basket of pre-selected stocks. And those stocks are passively selected because it's whatever's in the S&P 500, for example. You get access to that without having to worry about, should I buy this stock or buy that stock? You're basically getting all of the top performing stocks in the market in one ETF. So it becomes a much easier way to invest. And if we have a lot of people who are interested in doing this on their own. They don't want to hire a financial advisor. They just want to have a Sharia compliant portfolio that they can manage themselves. So the ETFs make it very, very easy. There are some people who want to buy stocks and they're thinking, well, okay, why do I need the ETFs? I actually want to buy ETFs. I want to buy stocks individually. Well, the ETFs can still help you, because if you look at the prospectus, you get a list of all the Sharia compliant stocks that are in the S&P 500. So that can give you a listing of, okay, here are Sharia compliant stocks that you can buy whatever you want, so it still helps you even in that case. But the ETFs are a really good way for people who don't want to spend too much time and want a passive approach. But one of the interesting things about that approach is that all mutual funds, all funds are trying to beat the S&P. And statistically, only about 20% of them do. So one of my questions was, well, if funds are only able to beat the S&P 20% of the time, then we should launch an S&P ETF, which is what we did, that beats funds 80% of the time. So that was the rationale to launch an S&P product like that. And alhamdulillah, it's done really well. The performance has been fantastic. And then you have a lot of investing experts, people like Warren Buffett, who are well-known investment gurus. And when you ask them what's the best way to invest, he always says, for most people, buy an ETF. It's the easiest way to get into the market without having to stress or worry every day and without having to choose specific stocks. So we believe that there's a big market for ETFs, and that's why we wanted to make a Sharia compliant set of ETFs available to everybody. The best reasons is that we don't really have that many competitors. so there's not too many people to choose from. There's in fact, I don't know of any firm anywhere in the world that offers both active and passive investment management. Maybe there are some that I'm not aware of, but I don't believe that there are any. So there really isn't that much competition. As far as the ETFs, we have the largest selection of Sharia compliant ETFs, and our list is going to continue to grow as we keep launching more and more fund products. And as far as the financial advisory side, if you're looking for a financial advisor, I don't know of other firms that are global in nature. So, I don't know if there are any. I know that there are some robo-advisors that are working on being international or global. But as far as I know, our financial advisory is the only one that is working globally right now. And like I said earlier, we're already working in 12 different countries, and we have global inquiries every single day coming in, every day from different countries. So alhamdulillah, the demand is there. One of the questions that people ask is, well, if I'm overseas, why do I need someone in the US? And that's a good, relevant question. Reasons why someone globally might be interested in working with us in North America is that, first of all, we're very close to the North American market. So most people who are investing are really interested in shares of stock like Google or Tesla or those kind of companies. Now, we're operating in the same environment that those companies are in the same time zone, and we're able to manage those portfolios pretty well because we're right here in that market. So that's one of the factors. We're in very close proximity to the main market that people are interested in buying stocks. Another reason to consider us is that our fees tend to be a lot less because in the US, the financial services is very competitive. And so typically, here, a lot of people pay, 1% or 1.5% in management fees. What we are finding overseas, in many other countries, we have people paying significantly more, 2.5%, 3% is pretty common. Yeah. So you're paying half the fees. One of the ways to make more money is to pay less. We had a client just yesterday who called, and he was in Abu Dhabi, and he just called me yesterday, and he said, he's paying 2.5% there. So he's now moving his accounts to us, and we're talking about 1 to 2 million US dollars, and again, he'd be saving himself a substantial amount of money, and then on top of that, our returns have been pretty impressive, and we focus on achieving our clients' goals, their financial goals. Right. So it's not even all about returns, it's about taking care of the clients and helping them achieve their personal goals. And every client is different. Some people are concerned about retirement. Others are saving up to go for Hajj. Others are saving up to buy a car or a house. Whatever it is, we have to help those clients achieve those goals. And so having a financial advisor by your side to help you is not a bad idea, to try to help you keep on track and navigate difficult market conditions. January is a very good example of that. The markets were very volatile in January. And if you had a financial advisor by your side, they can really help you because they have a lot of experience, because this is what they do for a living.
Apart from offering Sharia-compliant investment solutions, what other factors do you think are important due to which I should choose you instead of going to any non-Sharia compliant service providers?
I like that question, and that's one of the ones that we address in all of our presentations because it's a very important question. When you are looking for a financial advisor, there are 3 things you always have to consider. One is investment philosophy. Okay. In other words, what are these people going to do with my money? That's a very important consideration. Number 2 is, what are they going to charge me? And number 3, of course, is the Sharia compliance. So as far as investment philosophy, we believe that when you buy a stock, you are a part owner of a company. So it's a very serious decision. And we make that decision the same way we would if you were investing in a company. If someone came to you and said, I'm starting this business, give me $1 million or $500,000 or whatever the amount is, and we're going to start this business together, you're probably not going to just write a check. You're probably going to ask a lot of questions like, okay, what business is this? What products or services are you going to sell? Who are your competitors? How are you different from the competitors? Why will people come to you? How much money are you making? What are your projected returns? There's probably 100 questions you'll ask first before you invest in that company. Now, we feel the same way about stocks, because when you buy a stock, you're a part owner of a company. So we should ask those same questions. Even if it's a huge company like Tesla or Microsoft, doesn't matter. We still have to ask those questions. And so that's our investment philosophy. We look at these companies as if we were buying the entire company, and we ask the questions you would ask if you were buying a whole company. So right now, the type of stocks we're buying are companies that are offering basic materials. Now, that doesn't sound very exciting, but those companies are trading at a really cheap price right now because everyone is focusing so much on technology. Now, technology has been a little shaky lately. So there are really good opportunities in basic material stocks like West Fraser Timber, a company that sells wood. When you're building a house, you need wood. When you're building furniture, you need wood. And people don't think about that oftentimes, but there's a very strong interest in some of these basic materials to build some of these amazing things that we have today. And so, the basic materials have some good opportunities right now. Real estate is another one that has really good opportunities, especially with inflation and increases in valuation, and that we've already seen in a lot of real estate assets. Our REIT has performed really well. It was actually the best performing Sharia compliant product last year. So I think that there's still more to come on the real estate side. But getting back to your question, the investment, the strategy that's going to be employed is a really important consideration. I've seen a lot of other financial advisors that don't really know that much about investment strategy. They're hired to sell you products. So, and I've seen this in a lot of other countries, even here in the US, I've seen this a lot. When you go to a big firm, their advisors are told that, look, we want to sell this particular fund this month, or sell that particular fund, or this annuity, or whatever financial product. So it's kind of like going to buy a car and then paying the salesperson there to give you advice on what to buy. Of course, he's going to tell you to buy from his dealership. so that's the problem with financial services, and you have to be really careful about this. And it's important to understand the investment philosophy. Is your advisor offering you a strategy that makes sense to you? You have to understand it because it's your hard-earned money. So make sure you understand what that advisor is doing with it. So we're very open about how we handle our investments. Whichever advisors you're talking to, make sure you understand what they're doing and make sure they're not just trying to sell you other products. So that's the investment philosophy. The fee structure is another one. I touched upon this a little bit earlier, but many times the management fees, especially in a lot of these overseas countries, are really high. I've seen 2.5%, 3% very commonly. Here in the US, our maximum fee is 1.5%. Most of our clients on average pay around 1%. So we're very competitive. And one of the things I always tell people, one of the ways to make more money is to pay less. So the management fee is an important consideration as well. And then the third thing is the Sharia compliance. Not everybody understands Sharia compliance. There are advisors here in the US that I've seen that say, okay, we'll offer you a Sharia compliant solution. And they just buy a few funds or ETFs like ours, but then they still buy stocks or bonds or other things. And they don't understand the Sharia compliance themselves. So it's important that whoever you're working with understands your personal values. And that's one of the things that Shariah Portfolio, we are one of the few Muslim-owned and operated firms in the Sharia finance industry. And for us, it's not just business, it's also personal.
Now, let's discuss a hypothetical scenario. For example, I got $1 million in my pocket. I would like to invest this amount of money somewhere. How much would I be able to make in 1 year by investing this much amount of money today?
Well, it depends on a few things, because when we take on a client, we also have to look at what are your goals. So your goals might be totally different from someone else. If your focus is on trying to make as much money as possible, then you would be more focused on our aggressive strategy. In our aggressive strategy, we have a target return of 9 to 12% a year. That's our focus. Now, sometimes we do more than that. Last year, we were up about 26% or so. But every year is different. If you're someone who's really focused on capital preservation, this is money you can't afford to lose, you want to be really careful, then we're going to use a far more conservative strategy, and maybe you'll make 4 to 6% per year. But it depends on what you're trying to achieve. And our service is very personalized. So your goals may be totally different from the next person. So we have to see what your goals are, and we have to put a solution together that's specifically suited for your situation.
I want to become your customer. How much time would it take me to get started with your service?
Easiest way is by using our app. So we have a questionnaire on both of our apps and on our website. There's a questionnaire which basically gets a lot of the risk profile that we need. So, it's only, I think it's just 1 or 2 pages of risk profile questionnaire, and it's not too bad. I think there's like 10 questions. The way the questions are, it'll ask you how do you feel about a big market downturn? Like, let's say the market goes down 10%. Are you really worried, or are you thinking that, well, I'm focused on long term, so I'm not too worried about 1 month or 2 months? Like, it's a very straightforward questionnaire. You can see it on our website anytime you want. But that risk profile really helps us determine what is the right strategy for you, because we have 6 different investment strategies, and we have various sets of models depending on whether you want to be active or passive, or which of our money managers you want to work with. Each one has various models. So we look at a lot of different things, and the questionnaire really helps us determine the right place for you.
If I face any trouble in the process, how should I contact you?
Every one of our financial advisors makes themselves available to their clients, both by phone and email. So you can email, you can call the personal mobiles. Every client I work with, I give them my mobile number so they can reach me anytime. Last night I got a call at about 7 p.m. from a client, which is fine, because for their, everyone's in different time zones.
Yes.
So we have to be flexible because we're working with people all over the world now. And so we try to make ourselves available at different times of the day. I have clients in Malaysia, for example, that call me at about 8 or 9 p.m. my time. And usually they'll tell me in advance, so it's not a surprise. They'll say, hey, I want to just touch base and I have a few questions, and then we'll schedule a call. Another thing that we can do, right on our website, we actually have a system to book appointments with your advisor or even with your service team. So we have a service team, and we also have financial advisors. You can be one of them to ask any questions or to get a tour of the client portal or whatever it is you need. So it makes it very easy because, this is a service business. We are focused on trying to offer the best service possible, so that when clients come with us, they feel they're getting not the same service as other banks, but better service. That's our focus.
Well, I appreciate the time you've taken to speak with us today. And I hope, inshallah, we will be able to catch up with each other again sometime later. Thank you so much. And salam alaikum.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. I enjoyed the conversation. And if you have any other questions, I'm happy to discuss anytime. And I also wanted to remind everybody that you can find out our whole company profile, everything that we do at sp-wealth.com. So it's the best place to see, what we're all about and all the different products and services that we offer.